I've started holding things like this up close to the camera at the beginning and throughout the videos in hopes of capturing a better thumbnail than my videos usually have. Um, as it says, I made my first visit to Walt Disney World this past week, and in this video I'm going to show some of the things that I obtained there that were part of my trip and share relevant anecdotes. A more comprehensive account of my visit, details about the park, more details, will be in a blog post at a later time. But the videos are good for sharing things, for showing things. And this, I didn't know, like so many things, this I didn't know I was going to get. I like to get free stuff from especially free souvenirs. So I started seeing, we went to the park, the Magic Kingdom, on the first day, and we started seeing people with the first visit badges, and also every so often we'd be talking to somebody, and they'd say, "Oh, is it your first visit?" And I'd say yes, and the person I was there with would say that it's my first visit and that she was there 17 years ago. And so then eventually we asked, where do I get the first visit button? Because in addition to liking to get free things, I also love and collect buttons. By the way, if I look a little pink, that's the sunburn. Um, it's not the lighting, although it's a cloudy day, so it's also not as light as it could be. So anyway, that's the story of this. And for future reference, if you go, and if it's your first time, you go to they call it the Chamber of Commerce. It's right inside the park, at least at the Magic Kingdom it is, and it's across from the theater. Um, the I'll do better with names when I do the writing. By the way, you will see me throughout the video touching my face because I do. It's being suggested that you don't touch your face, and so I'm trying not to touch my face, but I probably will. Anyway, so that's the story of this button, and it is one of a few things that I will be highlighting from my visit in this video. The first thing that I want to show is the first thing that I got that was related to the Disney trip, which is the itinerary. I like to go places and do things, but not necessarily know before I go what I'm going to or absolutely have to do. But the person I went with is not like that. And so with a couple of days to plan, because this was a pretty spur-of-the-moment thing, she laid out everything schedule-wise, when planes depart and stuff like that, when we're supposed to arrive, which we didn't because the plane was delayed by 2 hours. And this is not really worth showing because it's worth having, it turns out, but it's mostly writing. It's not interesting to look at. It's got this nice binding. This is this is the map of the resort where we stayed. We stayed at a resort, which, as far as I can tell, is just a bunch of hotels glued together around a lake. The giant pool, there's a convention center. We were here, and we made one full loop. It didn't take very long. It's not as big as it looks, but still very big and very nice. Nice decorations, and then the last night that I was there, I heard water creatures, swamp creatures, because there's the little lagoon in here. I'll talk more about that. Here's plan for the Magic Kingdom, which was the first of the 3 parks that we visited. The plan for Epcot, which is the second park that we visited. The plan for Hollywood Studios, which we didn't visit because we decided to go to Animal Kingdom instead. And then options for meals and other options for meals. Some of our meals were scheduled and reserved. Some of them were improvised. Entrees, things. I'm allergic to things. We had to plan for the most part. Potential things to do in each place. and uh, foods that we packed and drugs that we packed for, uh, um, well, the food for in between being at the fancy park where we could order food, and the drugs to keep us healthy, because we both have prescriptions and we both also take things that we can get off the shelf that you don't need a prescription for, but doctors will sometimes recommend. So that's the plan, and I again wouldn't have done that myself, but it can be helpful, especially with some place like Disney where uh, there's so much to do, and sometimes you do have to plan ahead. There's this thing called Fast Pass. It's like getting a ticket. Most of the rides you go, you wait in line, but if you don't want to wait a very long time, you can get a Fast Pass, and you wait for a slightly less long amount of time, usually very less long. Um, and again, more on the individual rides and what I thought of them in the blog post. Um, when we got to the resort, we were given this, which is not a Power Rangers communicator, but it's a. See, I touched my face again. It's called a magic band. You can see the mouse, and obviously goes on the wrist. And then in order to pay for things, again with the face, um, you would. Well, I'll use the camera there because that's essentially what you would do. You hold it up to the camera or up to the reader, the scanner, whatever, and it reads the either the credit card attached to the account or the pre-ordered things. So when we went for prearranged meals, we held it up, and we that's all we did. They knew who we were and all that. I only made one mistake with this thing, because when you go into the individual parks, first you scan the thing, but then you put your finger on a fingerprint reader, and it matches your fingerprint to the account, which the account didn't have my fingerprint, so I don't know exactly why that was important. Um, but apparently, when this happens, a picture is taken of you. That when they scan, they can see the picture that it's you. I guess make sure that it's, but that should already be in the account anyway. But the thing that I did wrong was, for the last park for Animal Kingdom, I didn't keep my finger long enough on the reader, and part of the reason I did that is because I put it on the reader and it didn't do anything. So I thought, well, it's not necessary because I already did it at the other park. Um, but then the person stopped me and said I had to do it. But in the meantime, a little girl behind me scanned her thing and put her finger on the reader, and so it took a picture of her matched to my magic band. And so a supervisor was called over, and she realized it was my last day. I'm not going to go on any more parks, so she just let me through, and the thing worked for the rest of the day. It did work. So minor thing. It's even though I haven't worn. I used to have a rubber banded digital watch that I wore a lot, but I stopped wearing any watches like that because I didn't like things shaking up and down my wrist, and so I would have it really really tight, and that didn't get the best results from my wrist, but it did for a long time. Eventually, I attached that watch to a bike, and it became my bike watch. And also around that time, I discovered pocket watches, which are far superior. So this is a cool little uh, souvenir to have, and not exactly free because it came with all the ordering things, but it, it but essentially free, essentially a free little toy. Also, they sent us for our bags a luggage identifier with, I guess it's a combination of old and new animated Mickey and Minnie, because it's got the tall eyes and the heart-shaped face, uh, which I don't think is it's not exactly the Mickey that I grew up with, but it's also not exactly the original Mickey. And I'll have an example of the original Mickey, and it's got the the outfit's a little too big. It looks more like today's animation mixed with the animation from before I knew Mickey. So I don't know if I I will use this. I have luggage markers for my two main luggage things, but not for another one. So maybe I will use this on my most recent luggage thing. But it fastens this way, which is not as secure as the ones that I have. So it might not be worth the risk if I want to hold on to my souvenirs from Disney to use it on actual luggage that might leave my side. I took these from the hotel. They're just coasters. One of them I used, one of them I did not. Just fun little paper things to hold on to. Probably of all of the little souvenirs, I won't keep this as long as, say, the button or the magic band, but it's something interesting. And similarly, and I don't have the pen with me, but there was no pad and pen in the. See if I can get the lighting soon, but it's just the Disney logo. There was no pad and pen in the hotel, so when we were exploring and we went into the convention center and found these, I took one. And really, it was one big pad of these papers, but big pads with the glue. That's not the best glue, but not the worst glue. They fall apart, and so there were small pieces of pad. It's not very much, and I didn't actually end up using it because I didn't feel like I needed to write anything down. But I have always really liked taking the pads of paper and the pens that you find in the hotels because it's always good to have something to write on. And I did bring something to write on, but it was for a very specific reason, a very specific kind of writing. And that's the last thing that I'm going to share. At Epcot, they had this, which is for children, but we did it anyway. And what it is, Epcot, the main attraction is the around the world stuff, and they have around a lake, like that resort, around a small lake, they have a whole bunch of mini versions of countries, and they've got Japan and Mexico, Morocco, Britain, Canada, the U.S., and so in order to encourage people to visit all of them, they have a little game where you go to each individual country, and as you go, they give you a little information card, and it's got details about the country, and it's got a little picture to color in the back, and they will do a little drawing there, and in the case of Japan anyway, where they translate your name. I don't know if that's, I don't read Japanese, so I don't know if that's Aaron phonetically or a Japanese version of the name Aaron. And so we went to a bunch of these places, and at each place they also gave us a sticker. Here's the sticker from Germany, which is where we had dinner. And again, obviously these are things for children, but they encourage us to visit the whole place. And then once we have all of those little cards, wherever we get the last one, they gave us this postcard from, again, wherever we got the last of those little cards, last country we visited, with a special message from, in my case, Helena, who is actually from France. And they put a couple of stamps on it, a little message there. Every time someone spelled my name, the O was colored in, and it had mouse ears. Let me get the, well, on this button, it's not colored in, but it has mouse ears. So it's something that's drilled into them. She drew the fireworks too, and I talked to a couple of the other French people there. I wasn't sure at first, but I slowly learned they do seem to get these people who people these country exhibits from the actual countries. I think a lot of them are it's like pre-college. One of the people we talked to from Norway said it was her last day and that she was going back to Norway to go to college for events planning. And so before I started reading the badges carefully, I thought they must teach accents to all of them or insist that they speak with accents, but no, they bring people in from the countries themselves, adding a sense of genuineness to, again, with the face, to the countries. Um, so that was fun. Not that I wouldn't have gone around, because whenever I go to a place, whether I've planned extensively or not, I like to make sure that I see every corner of it as though it's going to be my last time. And for all I know, I'll never go to Disney World again. Um, for all I knew before last week, I was never going to go to Disney World at all. And so the opportunity came, and I like to see every corner. It wasn't like with Atlas Obscura, where um, it's, well, it was kind of, in that sense, collecting the sites that I've seen. And we didn't just collect the postcards. We went into all the buildings, mostly shops, some of them restaurants. We had lunch in Norway, we had dinner in Germany, and snacks in other places. There were two kinds of credits. There were meal credits, and some of them were sit-down meal credits. Some of them were quick serve, and then you take away the meal credits. And then we had 6 snack credits for smaller things, and we used most of those. Both of us used most of those on our last day. But that was because on Monday and Tuesday we had buffet meals, and we're not used to buffet meals, so we overindulged with the buffet meals when we didn't have any room for snacks. And then before the meals, we knew that the buffet meals were coming, and so we didn't get snacks before the meals. So what I'm saying is be careful with buffet meals, especially at Disney, because the food was really great and probably prepared by people actually from the country that it was saying that it was from. This was another free little surprise. It's an eye patch, and I got it just randomly because we were visiting the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, and outside of the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, there are people dressed as pirates. Inside the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, there are what are they called? Animatronic? No. Yeah, something like that. But not exactly that. They're robots. And but outside there are people dressed as pirates, and they do the R thing at you, and they've got swords and things, and they just you can't pose with the robots in the ride, but you can pose with the pirates outside the ride. And we posed, and they handed the person I was with a sword to pose with, and one of them had a little sword, one of them had a snake. And so I said after the picture, I said, I'm the least dangerous person in this picture. I'm the only one not armed. You got the sword, you got the small sword, you got a snake. It wasn't a real snake, but still dangerous. And so, not that I was asking for handouts, but the guy decided, well, since he doesn't have anything, I'll give him an eye patch, which isn't dangerous. Well, it can be dangerous, but it was just a fun little thing. Pirates of the Caribbean movies are my favorite cultural thing to come out of Disney, so it was pretty cool for my first little souvenir to be pirate themed. And this is the only pirate themed souvenir that I guess that I would probably want, because it's the iconic pirate thing. But it's very hard to wear, and you can see there are little holes there, especially when I hold it in front of something that's lit from behind. Well, it seemed to be working before, but it just presses so hard on the eye that it's hard to have the eye open. I suppose there's a way. I haven't figured it out, and I'm not going to put too much effort into it. Now, as I have probably mentioned, definitely on the blog mentioned, and probably here mentioned, I like buttons and pins, especially lapel pins, and apparently there's a whole culture of Disney pins and trading Disney pins, and I don't have enough to do that yet, but I went in knowing if I get a souvenir, it's probably going to be a pin. They are small, most places are cheap, not at Disney, but cheaper than other things that I kind of wanted to get, like they had the And I'd love to get this kind of lamp eventually, the kind of oil lamp, but nice metal oil lamp, the way that it is in the Middle East. Um, Not like a plastic replica of the one from the movie, but a nice little decorative one. And I thought I'd like to get that thing. I'm not sure I should buy it from Disney. It seemed authentic, but I'm not sure I should buy that from Disney. I should get that at a different kind of place, um, and probably for cheaper at that place. But pins. Now I have some Disney pins from uh, a moving sale that I helped out with. The person had Disney pins. Here's Pluto. Pluto was the last uh, character that we met. And I have Stitch, who is one of my favorite Disney characters from one of my favorite Disney movies. And then from the Broadway flea market last year, I got this Tarzan pin from the musical version of Tarzan, and the Disney movie Tarzan is also, like Stitch, one of my favorite Disney movies. Um, and so that's cool to have. I don't know if this is the kind of pin that would impress people at Disney World, but it is one of my Disney pins. So that was what I was on the hunt for as far as the souvenir to actively buy. I somewhat passively received those souvenirs, but the one that I would actively buy and what I had in mind was, you know what I should have done? I should have put uh, dark circles on either side of the mirror, so that way I'd have a hidden Mickey in the shot. Hidden Mickeys are mouse-shaped or Mickey head-shaped shapes hidden among the decorations of Disney World, and I will have pictures of them in the blog post. So read the blog post. The link to my blog, Cantonaut, is below, and it'll be soon, and it'll be the one on top. It'll say Disney in the title. But I should have done a hidden Mickey for the video. That was a mistake that I didn't. But anyway, I wanted the iconic Mickey Mouse head, not necessarily a face, just all black, black ears, black face, not in blackface, but just, you know what I'm talking about, like not with the eyes and mouth and nose, but just the symbol Mickey, not the mouse Mickey, but the symbol Mickey. Um, and they had one with Minnie, and I know it was Minnie because it had a red and white polka dot bow, but they didn't seem to have it with Mickey, and gradually I realized that they wouldn't, and so I eventually decided on getting this, which is, if not the logo symbol Mickey, is definitely the more classic Mickey. Trying to get all the detail that I can, and it's nice. It's a very heavy pin, and these Disney pins, now this is what I was looking for. I wanted this to be the pin, but I was wrong. But I'm not wrong, I don't think, that this is not a superior pin back. It's probably safer, but not a superior pin back to the metal pin backs like Stitch has here, which I like. But more and more pins have these rubber pin backs, so I guess I have to get used to them. I just don't trust them because I'm not used to them, but as I get used to them, I'll probably trust them. Change is ultimately good. So this is the one that I found that matched what I went in looking for. But before I found this, at the gift shop of the resort, this I found and bought in the Magic Kingdom near It's a Small World. But before I did that, in the resort, I found another pin that was not nearly what I was looking for, but still I was drawn to it, and that is this. It's, see if I can get the words in there. Official Conscience. This is Jiminy Cricket's badge that he earns over the course of Pinocchio from being an effective conscience. And it has Jiminy Cricket inside. And I don't like that necessarily. I'd prefer it just be the badge itself. But if I wear it, as long as I wear it right side up, it will not it won't slide, and it won't slide necessarily to the side, but I like the pins to be solid things. But I really liked this. Pinocchio for a long time was my favorite Disney movie. It might be down near 5th or 6th favorite because my first 4 are, of course, all tied. So maybe it's my second. I haven't seen it in a long time, but getting this, being at Disney World, inspired me to want to see it. And of course, if I found it at a library sale, I would always have bought it without hesitation, hopefully for $1. Um, yeah, I like to think that I give good advice. People certainly come to me for advice, and I like to think that I give good advice, and which is not necessarily being a conscience, but I wouldn't necessarily claim to be anyone's conscience. But giving advice is the closest that a person can be to to being someone else's conscience. So I was glad to find this pin, and so that is the start of my Disney pin collection. I didn't wear Stitch or Pluto. This is also very, very sharp. It's like a ninja star, um, and not as heavy as Mickey. Um, I didn't wear Stitch, Pluto, or Tarzan to the park, wanting to go in just myself and come out wearing what I ended up with. Um, that's how I like to go on, at least first time. Well, I've not really been to anywhere. When I first started coming to New York City, I was like, I went in just me, and then I came out with the playbills and whatever other souvenirs. Um, and then the next time I would be like, okay, well, I'm going to wear this specifically because I'm going to New York. I forget exactly what any of those things that I specifically wore were, but that's just me. Next time I go, I'll wear all the Disney pins. I also wasn't sure. I haven't been on a plane since 2004, so I wasn't sure how kosher pins were on planes. I did wear a knit tie. I didn't wear 2 knit ties because it was Florida and therefore warmer than here, even though it's winter. But I wore 1 knit tie, and Mickey really liked it. And then another day I wore a bow tie, and Minnie really liked it because she said it was like what Mickey wears. So that was nice to be acknowledged by the characters. And speaking of the characters, that's the last thing on the list is this blank blue sketchbook, as Mulan pointed out. That it's a sketchbook, and she asked if we were artists. It's a sketchbook, but we didn't use it for sketches, and I didn't know that this was a thing that people did. We used it for signatures from the characters. That's Eeyore up top and Mary Poppins. Mary Poppins was the first we got, but Eeyore was having trouble opening the book because their masks make it hard to see, and a lot of them do the signing. Not Mary Poppins. The human characters can see, but the characters in the big costumes can't necessarily see. Buzz Lightyear, let's see if I can find him. Pluto. Buzz Lightyear uses a stamp because it's hard for them to see, but a lot of them do still actually sign, and even if they can't see, they know how to do it, and so that's helpful. I told Mary Poppins that I had only recently seen her movie, and she appreciated that. To show some highlights here, Aladdin and Jasmine. Mostly I ended up using my companion's marker because it was just more convenient than having 2 writing implements. Here's Mickey Mouse. And in some of the sit-down places we went were filled with characters like the inhabitants of the 100-Acre Wood, Pooh, Tigger, Piglet, and Eeyore. And let's see, trying to find my favorites here. Stitch, again, one of my favorite characters in from one of my favorite Disney movies. And we met Goofy. Yes, Goofy. We met most of the core Disney characters. Mickey, Minnie, Goofy, Donald, Pluto. Here's Minnie, who we met shortly after we met Goofy. And we met a bunch of Disney princesses, including Mulan. Well, Mulan's not a Disney princess. She's a Disney warrior. And Mulan, another one of my favorite Disney movies, and I told her as much. And that I was looking forward to her new live-action version coming out. And also, they were very impressive improvisers, but again, they probably have prepared responses to certain questions. Like, one of the first things we said to her was, we were expecting to find you in your armor. And she said, oh, well, the war's over, so it had to go back in the cupboard. And really, it was very, very smelly because it's so heavy. Just similar to Aladdin, he said, oh, these are very nice scrolls that we're signing. And I said, well, you're signing away the genie, by the way. He said, no, we can't. The genie's free. We have no power over the genie. So very, the ones in the big costumes couldn't talk, but the humans could talk, and they were very good. They had answers ready for everything. Here's Donald Duck. Uh, Donald Duck. We didn't find Daisy Duck. Or we did, but she was walking away. Here's Belle. And I actually have two Belle signatures, kind of, because I think that's not necessarily printed on. But I got this for participating in Belle's Story Time, Enchanted Tales with Belle, which essentially mostly a cast of kids, but two adults to play guards. And I was one of the guards. I had a big plastic mask over my face. That picture might be in the blog post. And that was fun. Here's Cinderella and Snow White from the dinner in Norway. Now, Norway is where you meet Elsa and Anna from Frozen, but we were not interested in being in that line, and it's not our favorite movie. But we did meet Cinderella, Ariel, Princess Aurora, Snow White in the lunch. So I actually had Ariel in here twice, because we also went to Ariel's grotto. And let's see, Pocahontas we met at the Animal Kingdom. And then here's our last one, Pluto, who we met on our way out of the dinosaur ride. And we're just like, oh, you want to get Pluto? We went, and Pluto was so much fun. And then in kind of we went, after we met Pluto, we were in a shop for a while, and then came out of the shop, and Pluto was heading off to take a break and tapped me on the shoulder as he went by, and it was very nice. So I met Aladdin and Jasmine, Stitch, and Mulan from 3 of my 4 top Disney movies, the 4th being Tarzan. We kind of thought Tarzan might be at the Animal Kingdom, but it's okay. We got a lot, and we didn't need to also meet Tarzan. So anyway, those are the things that I came away from my first experience, the physical things that I came away from my first experience at Disney World. I'm just going to keep touching my face. I wash my hands a lot, so it's okay. But if you don't wash your hands as much, don't touch your face as much. This is the coronavirus thing. I'm not just saying don't touch your face. There's a reason. So those are the physical things that I came away with. Only the pins were paid for, which is nice for souvenirs. And for the intangibles that I came away with, look for my blog post later on. As I was collecting these badges and pins, of course, my special vest was losing buttons as candidates dropped out of the Democratic primary, and I have taken all of the buttons off the vest, and there are 3 people technically remaining in the race. It's a 2-person race, really, but there's a 3rd person, and I will continue to wear her button until she drops out, but she really ought to. And that was one of the intangible things about the visit to Disney was I was completely cut off, for the most part, from the news. And it was Super Tuesday, and I was actually glad. I was glad that I would be distracted on Super Tuesday from obsessing over the news. I turned on the news in our hotel room that night. I got the basic results. I found out what happened, and then I think we switched back to cartoons, because the channels were playing Disney cartoons, and like classic cartoons and sing-along cartoons. I had hoped to be able to watch a full Disney movie, but we didn't really have time for that. And more on the experience of the resort and the various parks and the different rides in the blog post. This is now almost 35 minutes, which is a good length, and I think it was amusing. Those are how many of those things did you know could be gotten at Disney? You've probably been to Disney more than I have, so maybe you already knew. But anyway, so the blog post will be at the blog. The Cantonaut link is below, along with all the other social media links. And yeah, so I had a good time. I have good things to remember it by, and good memories to be inspired by those things. And I'd go back, but not for a while, probably. So, let's see. Something Disney to sign off with, or no, I'll just stick with what I've been saying. failure is impossible. That's kind of a Disney sentiment.